Hello, PlayStation planners, players, and pure geniuses. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the City of New Prince. We're going to be doing our first step-by-step build that I'm going to run all the way through, aside from maybe editing out little things or making some processes more sped up than others. We are going to get it all in here. And, well, gonna have fun doing it. So I lucked out with this map. This was the first one that I decided to check out on the possibility of building a city, and I got lucky and really liked it. We have disasters on, unlimited oil and ore, but I don't think I'm gonna be using any oil and ore. There's a sweet custom interchange going on here. I love that about this new map pack. A lot of the building area is very, very leveled out, but there's these, they're definitely tall, but like rolling hills all around it. Kind of reminds me of where I live in central Wyoming. It's not this green, but the terrain's very familiar. A lot of split up rivers and foothills going into the mountains. So, kind of feels like I'm just going to be building at home. So these are the 9 tiles. I was thinking about popping for this. Now, I'm only going to pop them as I need them. So that could change as we build. This city's going to be organic. But right now, that's got the freeway running right through the middle of it. Not usually a huge fan of running the freeway right through the middle of town. I kind of like it around the edge. One-way entrance and exits is... three-way entrance and exits tend to flow a little better with traffic. So we've got, here's our minerals here. Good farming, some oil, some minerals, but I just don't think I'm going to use those little spaces for the oil and mineral industries. They're just, I don't know, I feel like they have to be big facilities to look decent. So we're going to definitely do some farming and forestry. You know, that's the one that can always happen no matter what map you're on, is forestry, because you can just make it. Got some fishing going on. I'll probably, considering how big this river is, I'll probably have some fishing stuff going on. Some good wind power. Probably use a couple of wind turbines, especially at the very beginning. There's already some land value there on the city side of the river. Yeah, pretty big river. Nice little tributary running into it there. We'll definitely utilize the both of them for luxury, land value, and industry, because big reasons for there to be a city here with those. So, I'm going to start pretty basic. They only give you the one road, so I'm going to make a little segment of road to start off with, and then we'll upgrade it. And then we're going to build a lot of dirt roads. So, here we go. The first ground has been broken for the city of New Prince. Let's do this. So I'm going to go out quite a ways. I want to give myself some space before the interchange there. Kind of build the city back to it a little bit. I don't know. If you start right off an interchange, especially a really big one like that, and have a bunch of roads running into it, it can clog up traffic after a minute. So we're just going to do a long straight stretch. 4,800 units, it looks like. Oh, 5,400 units. Or 5,400 was the cost. So however many units that was. Now we're going to build this is an arterial road that we just built. Now we're going to build a collector road, which is going to be mostly for our industry. There's going to be some residential access through here for the convenience of people going to and from their jobs. But this is going to be primarily an industrial road to get commercial traffic to that giant interchange. So I'm going to speed things up here a little bit. This is the industrial grid that we're starting here. Now I'm using one-way streets. I've seen this used a lot. I've used it a lot. It's promising, it's simple, and usually if you're working with the downloaded content for Cities Skylines, the generic industry that you build at first, because you do need some, but the generic industry you build at first generally winds up getting reutilized. So don't be too picky about it, but make traffic flow. So you build these one-ways, and then you have more smaller local roads inside the one-ways. And I kind of like to build a little grid inside of this, like a micro grid using road hierarchy. Keep them on the one-ways. Don't build any of the commercial on the one-ways. Keep it on those interior roads, and your traffic will flow darn near real smooth. And this pattern is real easily repeatable. You can keep building it and building it and building it as you're starting your city before you get into your industries and actually start making some legitimate money and not just cheesing the game. But to start, that's necessary because the game doesn't have the idea of there being an industry to start all this in the first place. So one thing to look forward to for Cities Skylines 2, I guess. What different challenges are there going to be? Can we just start a city by cheesing the game like this? Or is there going to be a lot more fundamentals to building a city? Stuff to think about. I think it's going to be fun. I'm super excited for it. So I'm just doing a 10... Oh, gosh. That's, what, 20 units by 11 units is what I'm doing, because I always do, not for every neighborhood, because that's not always the case in every neighborhood, but these sort of middle class neighborhoods, I like to do pathways like alleys. Keeps people from driving their cars so much and limits traffic without really inhibiting how much space you're using for building your city. Then it also kind of adds that realism of less traveled rear access for the people that live there. So that's our starting grid. We got a wind turbine, a water tower, a water treatment plant, and electricity running to all of it, and it's starting in the back corner. It would just make too much sense to start right where we have the electrical lines running to, right? So, at this point, just gonna let it speed up, watch our city grow. I've made this joke before, but in City Skylines you build trees and you grow houses, because I know the idea is you lay down the zoning and then individuals, in quotes, come and have their houses built or build their companies. You can't control what pops up there, just what kind of thing pops up there, but just the way that it springs up and everything, it's like they're growing, and I think it's kind of funny. And then trees don't grow in City Skylines, you just plant them, and they just miraculously stay alive. Even after burning down, they just spring back to life after 30 minutes. So, it's okay though. I mean, if this was made to be city building on a real life scale, none of us, except maybe someone who does this for a living, would have fun playing this game. Or it would just take a lot of research and knowledge to get into it, I should say. I can't say it wouldn't be fun, but at that point it may as well be a job, right? Alright, so now at this point, just zoning little things in, watching the city grow, that's really all you can do. As you can see, because we used dirt roads, used a minimal grid, maximized zoning, while keeping everything separated. Industrial's not integrated with residential traffic whatsoever. I mean, that little grid isn't connected to their collector road at all. So, and we have limited access. Traffic's good, and we're in the positive with our money flow already. We didn't even go into the negative that I believe, or if we did, it was close. It wasn't very much. So we got our first milestone, putting in healthcare, schools. Next is going to be the fire department and the police. Still just have that gap. I deleted some zoning there because it was going to get polluted by the industry zoning there. It was a bit too close, but that's not going to be a permanent zone for generic industry, so gonna just let that one slide for now, and we can fix that later in the build when it gets repurposed. So here we go. We're doing our first roundabout. This is gonna be a higher traffic flow roundabout that I'm planning on here. It's not gonna have a lot of traffic right now, and you could say that's money that the city doesn't need to spend at this moment, but it's so much easier to just build it for what it's intended to be the first time instead of having to relocate roads and such. I had one instance where I had a really nice park right next to, it hugged right up to the road, the fencing and everything, and I wound up having to redo basically the whole corner of the park that was already really, really time-consuming putting together. So we're just going to plan for the future now. We know that's going to be a big intersection, a major intersection. So we're just going to put the higher traffic capacity capabilities there now. The split roads going into the one-way, so that way traffic's not stopping going in and out of that arterial road. Whereas the collector, it just runs right up into it, so that way they carry less priority than the folks on the arterial road. Now it'll still flow rather smoothly, but just kind of a way to again cheese the game using its own dynamics to make traffic flow better. And honestly, that would probably be a realistic concept. Even coming up to roundabouts that are divided like that, seems like most of them are. I still find myself slowing down to almost a complete stop going into them, just because everything's moving around so much. So here we go, laying our water pipes under the roads, just getting the maximum reach. I find even myself sometimes putting pipes just one block over from another just to get a little bit more reach out of them, and that's not necessary. Either hold off on building back your city that far until you have the capacity to add more and put the pipes where they need to be, or go ahead and lay down what's going to be your future grid. Do it with the dirt roads because they don't cost very much, especially if that's going to be, an oncoming project, coming real soon. Having that road planned out already kind of gives you a sense of border and barrier to what you could be doing around it before you actually have it put together and designated. And sometimes even that can help you come up with a better idea for something else. You might have an area blocked off for what you're going to make into some sort of industry, and then you wind up turning it into a nature reserve instead. I've had that sort of thing happen. So right here with the zoning, I just got the zoning with the next milestone. I always delete my zoning off of my major roads. Now this one probably wasn't necessary. I didn't need to delete the zoning off of that road. But yeah, I deleted off of the collector roads because a lot of times I'll put I don't want the heavy traffic going through neighborhoods, especially neighborhoods like this. So I like to activate that and keep the industrial trucks running on the main roads, so that way they can run all over the city on the spider web of collectors and arterials that you have all over the place, but they're not cutting through, quiet neighborhoods and schools and parks to do it like they do in Cities Skylines without that policy. So See, here we go. Just duplicating that grid layout. It doesn't have the exact same layout when I do it, but the concept is the same. The one-way blocking, the interior roads that I actually have the buildings built on, that never changes. It works great. If you don't have the DLCs, just a great way to run that generic industry to be effective and efficient, and keep your city going without it jamming everything up. All industries, really. Even when I build on my major industries, same thing with all the production buildings. Here's a good overlay of where we're at so far. Everything's looking really, really good. So we're going to extend that collector or that arterial road out a little bit more. Now, I'm putting these local connections on an arterial road right now, but with the amount of traffic that's on it, because there's only 2,000 people that live here, it's still carrying less traffic than most collectors would in a big city. So those connections that I've made to it with the neighborhood aren't going to last. They will inevitably be removed, and it'll be nothing but collector roads running into this arterial, which I started the framework with that roundabout for another collector road to run parallel to the industrial one, just on the other side of this neighborhood, so that we can start getting that connectivity going. When I repurpose that industrial area, same thing, I'll connect the neighborhood up to that collector as well, so there will be access from two sides. You don't want residential connections on an arterial road. You know, an arterial road is the road that you get on in your city to get from one end to the other as quick as possible. And you don't want to hit a million stoplights getting there. You know, you want to be able to drive a mile or two, especially in big cities, before you have to stop again. That's going to be your arterial road, and you only see other 4-lane roads and other arterial roads. Arterial roads being even like freeways and stuff. Those are arterial roads. That's to travel a long distance as fast as you can. So you want minimal connections. Only the next busiest road can connect to an arterial. And then you put all your residential and local roads on your collector roads. Those are what's going to take the brunt of it. Those are going to be your boulevards with a lot of commercial on them. You know, that's where you're going to find your restaurants, your shops, your stores, is on those collector roads. And then the on and on. So anytime I have to make a school, I try to maintain the same grid I'm working with, but I'll break where the median line is in it. I generally like to break one 4 units away from the nearest road parallel to it, so that way I can have a bus lane with those pedestrian roads from the plazas and promenades DLC. That is like, oh man, I love those bus lanes. Just great having just strict bus traffic through certain areas. I love it. Bus and tram and all those things. Just having those running through those pedestrian areas are just sweet. So I also started this bike path network that I just ran. If you guys saw that, it kind of runs from the arterial road up towards that hill there, right in between 2 different neighborhoods that I've been building there. Just another way for people to get around. One thing that always seems to wind up suffocating cities in Cities Skylines is traffic. I see it all the time. I hear people talk about it all the time. You know, you get close to 100,000 and the city just bogs down with choke points and traffic. And with the limited capabilities we have on the PlayStation, we are just never going to make the road network the way it needs to be made to stem that amount of people. So you have to use transit. You have to use a lot of transit, almost all of it. You know, you have to use the metros, the trains, the trams, the buses, all those things, all at once, to get from different parts of your city. And the idea is using them like you would with a road hierarchy. You want your metros and trains to carry people across town. You want your trams and your buses to be more like local things, get from your house to the store and back. Whereas you'd use a metro or a train to get to work and back. So they have different purposes, and that's how you can purpose them into your city. But we're getting off track. That is going to be a lesson for another video. But bike paths and just regular paths are the first step to improving your transit. Get the cars off the roads, get people out walking, and you'll have minimal stoplights, traffic will flow great. You won't have a million roundabouts, or if you do, they won't be bogging each other down. And we'll go over all of that in this build series. I'm super excited to finally have my build pattern and design set up the way that I've been trying to for 6 months now. And I think we got this going good enough to do this step by step the right way. So we're going to put a park around that big open space where that bike path divides it in kind of a S shape. But we're not going to impede on the bike path. That will take priority over the walking paths. And I want sort of all the walking paths along with this school I did down here, and then another school on the other end. I need them to really all be kind of focused around this green belt that we have going on here. That'll keep people on them, keep them off the roads. I've been blabbering about that for too long. Moving on. Building parks is a ton of fun in Cities Skylines. The infinite possibilities. Like, can you build a park wrong? Because people go to all kinds of different parks for all kinds of different things. There's nature parks where you go to walk around a lake and listen to the birds. There's parts you go to walk, that just have paths cut through nature. There's parks with playgrounds and baseball fields and other places for social events. There is absolutely no limit to what you can build with a park. And it could never be wrong because it's what your people want and like. So this park, I have 2 plaza-style pathway junctions. And then in the middle here, I'm going to have just kind of a big intersection. It's going to connect the 2 paths on either side of the park here. It's going to connect either end, and then the bike path is going to run right through the middle of it. Put some really cool statues on either side of it, some trees, and kind of build out, make it really green. And this will just be like the central spot. For the park, most definitely, right now, for how small the town is, that could be the central spot for the entire town of New Prince right now. That's the spot for everybody to go. So I gotta tell you guys, I love and way overuse this statue of the fella on the horse. The way that it looks, it kind of resembles a lot of statues that you would see on the East Coast with the big, pedestal that it's on and everything. But like I said, I live in the Rocky Mountain region in the Midwest of the United States, and gosh, so many statues. If it's not a statue of wildlife, it's some Native American or some cowboy or a governor, whatever. Everybody who was important that they've made a lot of statues of around here, they're all sitting on a horse. So it's just, I love it. It makes me think of something I can put my reflection on screen. Something I see all the time, and I can reflect it here. It's great. I love it. So I'm just kind of doing like a circle of trees. I can imagine when this was planted, you know, that was sort of the idea, you know, and then as it spreads out, I randomize them a bit more, but as it came to the central point in the park, I kind of wanted it to seem like everything flowed in that direction to draw people to that part. So I made the trees directly around it rather organized in the way that they sat. But out here, I just did little groves. I've got a little formula in my head that I use for making the tree groves. You know, 1 big one, 2 medium ones, 3 small ones, and 5 random ones that all fit within a certain color scheme. It works great. Just place them down randomly within a little cluster of each other and those little dozen trees, and you can repeat that pattern on the same bunch of trees too. You know, if you put 2 big trees down, put 4 medium trees, you know, 10 random trees. Just, you know, it's, I don't know, just sharing my knowledge about this, I guess, my experience that I feel makes a city look unique, look organic, and look like a place that we could envision, maybe even just around where we are right now. So the city I live in's pretty old. You know, it was based off of it was an old western town, so the city blocks aren't big, and the roads are pretty narrow, and everything's that's here's been packed on these city blocks for, you know, 50, 60 plus years now. So we don't have paths like this where I live that cut through town and connect the whole city. So this was kind of like if I could make in a perfect world a resemblance of my city and the things that could be done better about it. Man, these bike paths and the ability to get around, especially since it's so small, it takes 10-15 minutes to walk around town, and having paths like this would just make the accessibility around my city just incredible. So here in a second, gonna jump into a bit of a detailing montage. Got our cemetery going on here. Gotta take care of all the dead folks. So. And these are always nice to make look decent, like a park themselves. Cemeteries are usually a pretty big part of any city. And so, you know, put some paths around it, put some trees, decorate it, make it accessible, make it a nice place for people to be and walk around. Making everything a place is, I feel like, the most important thing in Cities Skylines. You can just plop everything down and just keep building, but making destinations for people to go to is what really makes a map, just a city, just shine. It really makes it look great. You know, don't have a concrete jungle or anything, just give it some green space. You know, people love nature. It's in our blood. It's in our instinct, even if it's trees in a city. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit and get some of this green space filled in a little bit faster, and then get a high school built, put in a football field for it. I had built a spot for it already. It's kind of towards the back end of this park, but it wasn't quite big enough like I thought it was. So everything got a little squished in there, but that's okay. We just treated it like poor city planning and went in on it anyways, I guess. It all worked out. So this is the grid that I set aside for it. So let's jump into this, and I'll be back with you guys here in just a minute to get this video all wrapped up. Well guys, this is going to wrap it up for part 1. Do a couple more details here. I hope you guys like the content. Stay tuned in to see more of what we got coming for the new city of New Prince. Feel free to like and subscribe to see more of this sort of content, and we'll see you guys on the next one.